Hey, what is good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Real Deal. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden, and we got a big show. So let's not waste any time. Let's get that intro and let's get started. NFL draft season is upon us. All right. Once again, welcome to another episode of The Real Deal. I am your host, again, Courtney Harden. Happy Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live here in Philly. Big show today. As you see in the background, we got the NFL Draft. It's coming next Thursday. Can't believe it. It's here. So it's come so fast, and it'll be here the weekend in Vegas. Trying to get there, but, a little expensive and everything. But I can't do this alone on the show, but before I bring on my guest on the show today, like I said, big show. You can follow the show on Twitter at Get the Real Deal. Also follow me on Twitter at Courtney110979. We're live on Roku TV, BS3 TV network. Download the app, the Roku BS3 TV app, and you can get all of our shows. BS3 TV is the network as well. Shout out to Ben Sutterth and the BS3 Network family. Just type in BS3 Network or BS3Network.com. You'll be able to get all the shows from there. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just hit up follow the show, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. Google that. As they say, Google me, and you'll find all the episodes and all the shows there. We're on Spotify, Anchor, Google Play, Spreaker, all the podcast apps. Wherever you can get podcasts, we are there. So again, without further ado, cannot wait to get into this show with my fellas NFL. We got the 3rd and 3 podcast in the building, 2/3 of them on the show. We got the sports prophet himself, Jason Fierman, and my real deal brother, the Real Deal with Damian Adams. What's good, fellas? How y'all doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on the show again, bro. I'm always just so honored to be on your show, man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Really appreciate it. How you doing, Jason?
Yeah, man. All good, bro. Hey, Saturday morning, you come calling, I'm here. It's the real deal, baby. Real deal. I'm ready to go, man. It's football. And like you said, the draft is just days away, and it's crazy season right now. So I'm ready to get into it, baby.
Yeah, man. Let's get right into it. And like I said, shout out to Nikki G. That's the 3rd of the 3rd and 3 podcast, and she's enjoying some vacation time in Orlando. So I'm gonna try to get her on maybe on the after show. So like the after party, got the show and the after party. So we'll get Nikki G on the after party show. But shout out to her. Shout out to the entire 3rd and 3 podcast as well. So you guys just did a NFL. You guys do a lot of NFL things on the show. Talk about the show before we get into it.
Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, shoot. I mean, it's so funny how people always ask about how the show started. I feel like I get it asked every other day. It's amazing. I'm like, look, I did a show with D, I did a show with Nikki, then we did a show together, and we're like, bam. And it happened like around the NFL draft a couple of years ago. So that was where it started, and it became, predominantly an NFL show, but then it really kind of like expanded and just, evolutionized, if you want to say that, into so many other things with knowledge with Nikki and her ridiculous, insane questions that we have. And we add in some pop culture and just have some fun. We just make up our own stuff. It's great. So, Wednesday nights at 7:00 Eastern, we are live, like right over here on StreamYard. Catch us on Facebook. And it's great. I couldn't do it without them. It's just the perfect chemistry. We are on the periodic table, my friend.
Yes, I love that. I love the 3rd and 3 podcast. You guys know I've been on there.
Thank you.
We've always connected, and like I said, it was only right that I get you guys on this show today for this NFL draft preview show. So, and like I said, if you guys have any comments, you guys want to, tell us what you want your teams to do in the draft, or if you're upset that they don't have no picks in the first round or anything like that, you can hit us up on the Facebook Live here. So we got a couple shout outs. Miss Mocha Bella, thank you for tuning in. My cousin Shilla, hey fam, thank you for tuning in. And Mr. BS3 himself, he said, "What's up, guys?" Mr. BS3 himself, Ben Sutters as well. So again, let's jump right into this before we get into the draft. There was some big news here. Right around you're as a fan, the 49ers, Jason's a fan of the 49ers. Mr. Deebo Samuel wants to get out of San Francisco, wants to be traded. Some things are going on. We don't know what's been percolating or anything like that. Looks like things were going okay. I mean, he had a great year and everything, and he's been used as a weapon for the 49ers as well. But it looks like there's some personal stuff going on, and the 49ers said they're willing to pay him, so it's not to pay. So we just don't know what's going on. But so, Jason, we'll start with you. What do you think of Deebo Samuel requesting a trade? Do you think he gets traded because the 49ers don't have to move him? Do you think he gets traded before the draft or during the draft? And as a 49ers fan, do you want to see him go? Is he becoming a problem? What's your take on it, first and foremost?
Yeah, well, first, you hit it on the head. It seems like it's something more personal than, him, the excuse that I'm hearing out there that they didn't like the way that he was used during the season, because he really wasn't used as a running back, quote unquote, until toward the end of the year and in crucial situations in the playoffs. So I don't want people getting too carried away with that. So again, I think it is more personal. Again, when money usually talks and he's not having any of it, he just wants out. So we'll find out probably sometime soon what happens. But as a fan, no, I don't want to see him go, but I don't want a player on my team who doesn't want to play. That's, the other thing. So let's get what we can get for him. And to me, that's got to be a first rounder. To me, it's got to be a high first rounder and then some. So there are a lot of trading partners. I put an article out on Third and Three podcast late last night. I just felt compelled to do it. Jets, Ravens, a few other teams in there. But what we have to understand is that, Deebo Samuel is such a special player, and what puts him above so many other people and puts him in that level of wanting to be paid $25 million plus is his ability to do these other things, end arounds, reverses, taking it out of the backfield. And most of his touchdowns, the 8 rushing touchdowns that he had, came from 15 plus yards out. They weren't running him in I formation in the goal line or anything. So we used his skill, and that's what you want to do with your best player. You use him that way. So, again, it doesn't really have anything to do with the way that the 49ers used him last year or plan to use him in the future. It is definitely more personal, so it does stink. But let's get what we can for him at this point. And to me, again, if it's very hard to get fair compensation player for player wise. Somebody mentioned Ezekiel Elliott straight up, and I almost threw up all over the place. No sense to me whatsoever. So it's going to have to be probably draft picks. And you know what? If we can hit a home run in the first round and get an early pick with one of these wide receivers or whatever it may be, then I'm all for it at this point. But yeah, he's got to realize what he is and what makes him so special. He's a big yak guy. He doesn't run the route tree, and I'm not taking anything away from him. He's one of the most remarkable players I've ever seen in my entire life. But what makes him special are these other attributes, and whatever team takes him is going to want to use him that way. So let's see what exactly it is, what comes out. Then, I have a lot of other thoughts on this, but I want to hear what you guys got to say too.
Yeah, Damian, it's on you. Like I said, I wanted to get the 49ers fan first, because I know this is right up, right in his as a fan, and it's, this guy's he's the ultimate weapon. He's the specialist, and that's and I like I said, people would think like, why would he want to leave a Shanahan-led offense? Because he's using his strengths. But it's got to be more than that. And people really don't know. The insiders that we've been watching and seeing and been reading about, they don't really know. They're like what's going on? So it's got to be something personal. But Damien, what's your take on Deebo Samuel wanting to leave San Francisco? And like he said, he wiped out all his Instagram and 49ers things on Instagram and all this. That's the thing to do these days, is to wipe out everything that you're affiliated with, the team you're affiliated with. But what's your take on it, Damien?
Yeah, it's very, very high school. That's the first thing that comes to mind, like with the whole new trend of, if I want to leave, I'm going to make sure that they realize that I've now unfollowed you on Instagram or Twitter. And another thing is, there's people whose job it is to watch this, because like, who notices who unfollows somebody, right? Like, you have to be on it. So you have to be so on it to see when somebody unfollows a certain team, unfollows a certain person. It doesn't just happen in sports, like it happens in pop culture as well. Like Rihanna gets pregnant and Drake unfollows her, and somebody notices, notices that it happens. I'm like, man, kudos to them, because I couldn't have the attention to detail to notice when a celebrity unfollowed a certain person or a team. But because they have those people out there that are willing to do that, players have this leverage of being able to not come just straight out and say, boom, I want out. Let me just play these games first and see how they respond to these games, and see if I can create leverage that way first. And I think that's what he did. And I think that his leverage, or lack thereof, is what led to him officially requesting the trade, because they didn't react to his unfollow or his social media games the way he wanted them to. And then he was like, okay, now I got to turn this up to a different level. So I think ultimately it's about the money. Like people are saying about the usage, like I'm with Jay. I don't think it's the usage. I think it's about the money. And if it's related to the usage, it's because he wants to get paid at a high amount because he is used in a certain way. So I think it's ultimately about the money. I don't know if they'll come to terms on it, because they've been willing to overpay, quote unquote, for certain positions. Like the fullback, he gets paid more than other fullbacks because you guys use him in a dynamic way. So maybe Debo's looking at that like, okay, he's getting paid above his quote unquote market value. Maybe I should as well. But the market value for our receiver is a lot more than the market value for a fullback. So you want to overpay for a fullback because it's not that much, quote unquote, compared to overpaying for a wide receiver. But selfishly, as a Saints fan, we got 2 first-round picks. I'm like, okay, if they willing to make a deal, we willing to give one of those picks for sure to get a Deebo Samuel. I just could imagine pairing him with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, and how dynamic that offense could be. So I've already, saw them plans in my head. I already pictured a double backfield. You have Deebo and Alvin Kamara back there, and you don't know which one's going to run out of the backfield, and both of them can run routes, and it's, you have so much to worry about. So I know, as fans of other teams are just salivating at the idea of getting this guy on your team. So it's gonna be very interesting to see, especially with the draft coming up. It's gonna be very interesting to see what happens. But I do think we're gonna use social media thing. Hopefully, this result of this one stops that as a trend. Hopefully.
Right, because Kyler Murray did it, and others are doing it too. So, but as you said, as a fan, as an Eagles fan, if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm on the phone right now with Lynch. John Lynch is saying, hey, what does it take? Because the Eagles have the flexibility to get a Deebo Samuel, but I don't trust Howie to make that type of move, because I don't trust Howie as it is anyway. I figured he was gonna be gone after this season anyway, or even last season. But he's still here. He's our GM, so he's got to make the moves. For me as an Eagles fan, it's always, we're almost there. We're almost pulling the trigger. I was like, I'm so tired of hearing that the last couple of years of the Christian Kirks or whoever it was that they were trying to get or anything like that. I was so sick of hearing it as an Eagles fan. But when Deebo Samuel's name kept popping up, and they're like, oh, the Eagles, they need a receiver. And we have the draft capital because, like I said, we traded with the Saints as well, so you guys can get a second first-round pick. So, but we still have 2 firsts. We have our 3rd rounder. We have picks. We have the boatload pick. My only question would be, what is it going to take? Is it going to take a Tyreek Hill type of draft talk? If that's the case, that's a lot. And the Eagles they were talking about they want all this draft capital that they had. They have it for the next couple of seasons. So what do you guys think it's going to take? It's going to take, I know it's going to take a first. If I can take a second, maybe 2 firsts and a second, maybe some picks for next year. Damian, I'll start with you. What do you think it's going to take, and some player? What do you think it's going to take to try to pull Deebo Samuel? Because I know San Francisco's going to want a major haul for Deebo, and which they should.
Yeah, they definitely should. I think you got to look at what Miami gave up for Tyreek Hill, and then go maybe 1 step back. So they gave up what it was 2 firsts, 2 seconds, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And so I would just take 1 step back. Maybe you get 1 first, a couple seconds in the 3rd, and start from there as far as the negotiating process. Because even though Deebo may be just as impactful as Tyreek Hill is looked at as the better receiver. So I would start from there, like 1 step back from what Miami gave up for Tyreek Hill. I do think Miami gave up a lot, but because they gave up so much, that's where the scale starts now.
Yeah, and then you got to pay him. Then you got to pay Debo. You got to, I
Yeah.
mean, and as the wide receiver, they talk about the wide receiver boom has been like this is the premium position right now. It always fluctuates, but this is the premium position. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, these guys are getting paid now. DK Metcalf wants to get paid. AJ Brown wants to get paid. Even Samuel wants to get paid, which is you do want to pay him, but do you pay a receiver 25 to 20 million? That's the other question too. Now, are they worth it? Yes, because Debo's only 26 years old. But that takes up a lot of salary cap. And for, like I said, the Saints or the Eagles, I think Kansas City should be involved in this since they lost Tyreek Hill. There's so many teams. The Jets, I know, Jason, you laid it out in your article, like whether team Green Bay, they should be. So Jets, there's a lot of teams that are involved in these talks that should be in these talks. And I'm just seeing like who will fit the best. And I think all these teams could use a Debo Samuel. But I think another question before I go to you, Jason, is that he's talking about he doesn't want to be used as a running back. Well, with your skill set, you're going to probably still be used. If you go to the Eagles, Nick Sirianni is going to use you in all types of ways. He's going to use as a running back. He's going to use as a receiver. And you're going to be on that other side with Devontae Smith. In that regard, which would be amazing. But I don't know if the Eagles going to pull the trigger. So if he's talking about just wanting to be a receiver, he's going to still be used as a specialized player. But Jason, what do you think it would take to pry him away from San Francisco? And like, how many? What do you expect? Like, do you want 2 firsts, 2 seconds, or even more?
I don't think that they're going to get 2 firsts for him. I really don't. Like Damian said, he's not on the Tyreek Hill level, and he really shouldn't be looked at that way, to be honest with you, even though he is great. Hill just brings a little bit more. But, a first, a second, and, maybe another second rounder, I don't think they're going to get a giant package for it. I would like them to get maybe even a player back for it. If they trade with Philly, I know that you would love this, and I know it sounds weird, but if they were to get one of their first rounders and, perhaps, a second rounder next, whatever it is, but even Jalen Reagor in the deal, maybe he revitalizes his career in San Francisco. I know it sounds strange, but it's possible. I think Atlanta is a good destination. You see, like, Debo works well with tight ends, as we've seen with George Kittle. So if I think about Kyle Pitts, I think about Mark Andrews in Baltimore. So that's why I think those 2 teams, the Jets make sense. Green Bay makes sense. I think Denver and Indy certainly make sense. Philly makes sense. Watch out for Cleveland. But, yeah, what it's going to take to get him, it's going to definitely take a first rounder. And I would expect it not to be a 20-plus first rounder, somewhere between at least 1 and 15. I think that he really warrants that at least. And the 49ers should not settle. They shouldn't. Look, I'm going to be hard-headed about this, guys, and be honest with you. If they want to play ball like this, and if we don't get the deal that we want, we don't have to trade him. We only owe him $4 million. And if he wants to ride the bench all year, go ahead. But you know what? Maybe something in him says, I don't want to let my teammates down, and he does come play. So there's a lot of things that can still come play out and so come to fruition in this. So we'll see what happens. But, again, it just is a crappy situation. I wish we weren't in it, but the fact that we are in it, go get what we possibly can. And I want people to know that the 49ers were in full ready negotiation talk with Debo Samuel. So he was just like, I don't even want to look at the contract. I don't want to look at that piece of paper. I just want the hell out of here. Yeah. So even all that, it says a lot. But I don't think that would give other teams leverage necessarily because he wants out. Because, again, the Niners do not have to get rid of him. They don't. So they still have the upper hand.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do. Shout out to Anthony Price. Says Debo for a first, third, and next year's second. He goes to the Jets or the Falcons. And the thing is, too, I get when these players, all these players and athletes, they want to get traded, but they never think of like, okay, if I go to a situation like say he goes to the Jets, and he's like, okay, he's going to be in purgatory for the next, because the Jets is just, maybe yes, he would help them, of course, but he's one player, so it's going to take them a couple of years. You really want to be in a rebuild situation for your next 2-3 years of your prime of your career, and then you're like, well, wow, this is where I'm at right now. Kind of like Tyreek Hill, he got out of Kansas City. Yes, he's had a Super Bowl, but it's like, okay, like we said, he's going to be catching passes from Tua. It's going to be a huge difference catching passes from Tua, than Patrick Mahomes. But I guess, they don't think about that situation. They don't think about that. They just think about, okay, this is my future. I'm going to get paid, which I'm not mad at him about that. You're making $28 million a year. You got to go and get it. But Kansas City was willing to pay. So Debo, the same thing. San Francisco, winning organization. You go to somewhere like the Jets or the Falcons, they might not be winning for the next 2-3 years. Then you're frustrated, and then you're ready. Oh, I want to leave again. So I don't know if they really think that way, but I guess money is it. So you move when the team, whenever you can go get the money. Hey, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, you got money football players. Oh, sorry.
No, you go, Dink. No, you go.
You got football players kind of moving like basketball players,
right?
Right. But the thing is, with basketball players, especially the upper echelon, that one player can make the difference for your team.
Right.
In football, for the one player to make your difference, I mean that team is already pretty much set, and they're just missing that one spot. For wide receivers, very few teams where that wide receiver is going to be the difference for that team to be a Super Bowl contender. Like I wrote an article on 3and3podcast.com about the highest paid wide receivers and what the results were for their teams that season. Mm-hmm. And most times those teams didn't do well. Like you had very few situations where the highest paid receiver per the salary cap, their team actually did well. Like the Kansas City won a Super Bowl, and it was Sammy Watkins who was the highest paid receiver that year. He didn't even really have an impact. It was so you really look at it. If you're a team, is it worth it to go out and get this, somebody who's unhappy at wide receiver if you're not that one player away? And can you afford, if you are one player away, you usually can't afford a top end receiver because your other positions are highly paid because you're already in this position. So it's kind of a catch-22. If you're Deebo Samuel who hasn't won yet, are you willing to go to the Jets just to get your money? You're going to get paid. The Jets are going to be willing to overpay you for sure because they're desperate for your type of talent. But then, like you said, you're there, you're going 4-13, 5-12, and you're sitting there, you're getting ridiculed by the New York press. You just but then do you wipe your tears with $100 bills and you're all right at the end of the day? It just depends on what you really care about.
Exactly. Some people just, they want to win. Some care about the money. And, the QBs, Courtney, those are the ones that move the narrative. The Matt Stafford that won a championship, Tom Brady that won a championship in the last couple of years with new teams. Why, like Devontae Adams is not winning the Raiders a championship. Tyreek Hill is not going to win the Dolphins a championship. These are the things that we have to understand. So Deebo Samuel going somewhere, while he would definitely help a team, he's not going to put you over unless, like D said, you are completely set everywhere else and you are just missing one solid weapon away, something like that. And that's very, very rare.
That's a really good point because, as you said, quarterbacks are the premium that can move the needle. Right. And, like I said, if you get a Stafford, you get a Tom Brady, you get the upper echelon QBs too, that moves the needle. Like Russell Wilson, maybe he moves the needle for Denver. Now,
Sean
Watson, guys like that. Because, like I said, Denver, they're set just about everywhere except for quarterbacks. So now they got one of the top 5-6 quarterbacks in the league, and Russell Wilson, when healthy, is going to push that, even in that tough division. I mean, that makes them a contender. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but that makes them a straight up contender. But it's those types of moves that you make. But as you said, wide receivers, I don't see Devontae Adams putting the Raiders way over the hump. They'll be better. They won't put them way over the hump. Or Tyreek Hill, he won't put the Dolphins way over the hump because for the Dolphins, Tua, there's still question marks about him. So, and now will they say, we just need someone like Tyreek Hill to help him out? Of course, you're good as your weapons. The quarterback's good as their weapons. But I don't know if that puts them way over the hump. That doesn't put them over a Buffalo Bills or anything like that in the division. It might not even put them over New England Patriots. So it just all depends on the situation, as you said, and where your team is at this point. If they're one player away, then maybe. But other than that, I don't see Deebo Samuel really moving the needle unless he's on a team, maybe like a Tampa Bay or something like that. Yeah. And but they're loaded. They're loaded just about everywhere. So he would just be an added piece. So, yeah. So all right. Well, let's get into this NFL draft, which has been it's been crazy. First, what do you guys think of mock drafts? I know we all have them, we do them, but it's always a talk. But it's funny because they never seem to be right. Like you say, we've all written right for websites, stuff like that, but it just seems like they never be right. I guess it's always a guessing game. But what do you guys think of all these mock drafts when everybody has one? We'll start with you, Jason.
They're so fluid, right, guys? I mean, they're just so ever-changing up until like the very last moment. Like, I know that we put our final mock drafts up, but if Deebo Samuel gets traded, they got to do the whole freaking thing all over again.
Yes, yeah, right.
I loved it though. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's like picking like the March Madness bracket to me. It's like just give it a shot. Like I don't know half these guys. I don't know more than half of them. I don't watch college football that much, but it's the guessing game, and it's what you hear, the little tape that you watch. So I love trying to put and piece these together. And the point system that we have on 3rd and 3 is going to be a lot of fun. Whether a guy gets drafted in a certain spot or to a certain team, or whether via trade. And I just think it's great. And regarding the trades, man, they're coming. We don't see them coming, but they're always coming. Always coming. Yes. So which ones are going to make them? I mean, I had my predictions out, but who the hell knows? So I can't wait to watch, man.
I know. That's the thing. The trades are the big thing because you got the one thing, like I said, with Howie Roseman, he does make trades. He makes his move. He moves up and down the draft board, and he gets future picks, and he does that all the time. Bill Belichick, he does it. The Patriots always are loading up on picks and things like that. They're always moving up and down the draft. Jerry Jones in Dallas. You got a lot of GMs and owners that love to do these. And I think that's the most exciting part one of the most exciting parts about the draft. What do you think, Damien, of all these mock drafts? Always trying to get it right. You even have the betting aspect of it too, where you have a perfect first round draft, or at least close to. I know Bleacher Report does this all the time. If you have even the close, you can win money. So you got that aspect of it too. But what do you think of all mock drafts and all those things that when it comes to before the draft?
Like Jay said, it's fun, man, and it's excellent marketing by the NFL. Excellent marketing by the NFL. They do a great job with all the things you could criticize the NFL about. One thing they do a great job of is marketing the NFL. And the NFL draft is another product of that, right? They've turned, because you think about it, it's literally just names being called. They've turned names. They've turned names being called for a team into this global phenomenon called the NFL.
Right, it's supposed to change the team overnight. Now you're going to win the Super Bowl because you got to, right?
Exactly. So the fact that they turned it, especially when you watch old clips of what the draft used to be back when, the old commissioners used to do, and it literally just them just sitting there picking the card up, and the Falcons drafted Brett Favre, and you see these old clips, and he's like, and they turned that into what it is now. It's absolutely ridiculous. And like you said, it's the fun of trying to get it right. Like, I'm going to brag forever that last year I called that Chicago was going to trade down to get Justin Fields. I got that in my card now. To brag about forever. So if you do get it right, you can brag about it forever. But if you get it wrong, like Jay said last week, it's the draft. Anything can happen. How am I supposed to? So you have
what do I
know? Right. What I know, right.
So, and just like Jay, I'm not a huge college fan, but this does, it puts me in that perspective of a college kid. I'm cramming for the exam. I'm looking at YouTube. I'm watching highlights. I'm trying to see what offensive lineman has the longest arms because the Saints need a tackle. So I'm looking to see which offensive lineman moves the best. I would know what I'm looking at. But I'm doing all this research because I want to see what it is, but it brings you into it. And next thing you know, you're watching the draft, watching these names being called, like there's actual action happening. But that's what the draft does.
Right. And that's what it is. It's craziness. And we got a comment here that says like that. It's like the movie Draft Day, crazy 24 hours. It is. It's like it is nuts because I remember last season, the Eagles had the 11th pick, and the way the draft was going, it was like, oh, we got to get a receiver. Receivers were just falling off the board. And then it came to the Cowboys, and the Giants were drafted before us. And we jumped ahead. We traded with the Cowboys, traded with our enemy to screw the Giants and see like we're screwing the Giants even more. Sorry about that, Nikki. It's just what it is. Then we got Devontae Smith. We got him because I'm like, if they don't get, I was talking to my wife. I said, we got to jump ahead because now the Giants are going to scoop him up because they're right before us. And I know we had the 12th pick. And the Eagles jumped. They said, we got to trade with the Cowboys. And they did and got him. I was like, yep, got him, which was good. But as you said, it's all about, it's like a movie. It's just, you're just looking and you don't know what to anticipate. And now it's like teams you think they're going to draft this player and this player might drop to someone else. He drops into your lap. And it's like CeeDee Lamb. He went right to the Cowboys 2 years ago at like 15 or 16. You just thought like he would be at least top 10. And he wasn't, so he dropped right to the Cowboys' lap. So yeah, that's why I like to see that type of thing when players start dropping. You're like, wait, In my mock draft, I thought he was going to be number 8. Now he's number 22. It's like, what happened? Like, what happened? So,
but you know what? You bring out a really good point about like, you know, how teams say, well, this team would never trade with that team. The Eagles and the Cowboys trade. No, they will. If the trade is right and they're getting enough compensation, they'll trade with anybody. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, they will. Teams will get desperate. Cowboys are like, oh, because I think the 2 corners, Patrick Surtain, I can't remember the other one. The Cowboys needed a corner. They wanted Surtain, and he went right before. I think he went right before, and they were like, well, we'll need this 10th pick now, so let's just trade down with someone. I'm like, okay, the Eagles need to just go up, and we got to trade with the Cowboys. I don't know if they're gonna do it, and they did that, and that was on the day of the draft. That was literally seconds before anything. So yeah, it's like there's nothing like the NFL draft. So you gotta definitely. But there's another question about the Debo Samuels. They says, can you see Aaron Rodgers rework his contract to bring Debo to the Packers, or am I reaching a little bit? What do you think of that question? D, I'll start with you.
Ooh, Aaron Rodgers seems like a guy who wants all his money. Like he seems like, a guy who, if they come to him and ask him about, you know, reworking his contract they just signed, I could see him turning around and throwing a football at him like he did that little kid.
Yeah, right. What?
So, you know, but the thing is, with me saying all that, I know Rodgers does want to win. So maybe they're able to do that. And they were willing to offer Devontae Adams the money. That's the thing I think gets lost in this. Adams just wanted out. He just wanted to go play with Derek Carr. I know him and Derek Carr have a true like brotherhood as far as their friendship. So he wanted to go play with Derek Carr and, you know, be on the West Coast. So that was more of the decision than the money. So if they're willing to give that money to Adams, they'd be willing to give that money to Debo, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers, as you said, he's not going to give up any money. He's not going to do the Tom Brady discount or anything like that. I just don't see it in him. I'd be surprised, but I mean, if they want to get Debo, they can just go and get Debo. They could just be like, okay, we got to rework some things. I know their cap situation is horrible, but they can try to rework some things or whatever. But Jason, what do you think of that whole thing? Does Rodgers rework his contract, or I think the Packers can just go and get him and then maybe try to rework something?
He'll rework somebody else's contract, not his.
Yeah, right. Not his.
He ain't messing with his money. But no. I mean, they do got the 22nd and 28th pick. I mean, that's not ideal. Like to grab one of them, I highly doubt they would give up the first 2. But if they did, I don't see how the 49ers could pass on 2 first-round picks, the 22nd and 28th. I think that'd be pretty solid. I would take that in a second. I'm not saying Green Bay would do it, but it's certainly possible. I know that. Look, at this point, I think Rodgers has realized that he's got to win one more Super Bowl. He has to win one more to go down with these legends like really all time, because he really is. I mean, look, we all talk about it. He's top 3 that we've ever seen talent-wise and all this and that. He's got to win another Super Bowl. He's only been to one, and he won one, and it was freaking 12 years ago. So he needs to get back and do this, and he's, 38 years old, 37, whatever it is. You get a guy like Debo, you enhance your chances a hell of a lot, because we saw what happened to them in the playoffs last year. Their offense stifled, and I know it was by an excellent defense in the Niners, but they had nothing going on, because they took away Devontae Adams, and then it was like, okay, let's try a running game. That didn't work out. Bring in Debo, somebody dynamic, and if they can, again, draft even another guy, a young kid, Traylon Burks, whoever it's going to work out to be, that would be great for them. But that Rodgers, one thing, he's got his pulse on this draft, guys. Like he's telling, like, look, these are the receivers I like. Let's make sure that we get at least one of them or something like that. So I think that he's heavily involved in this one.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's the thing. Rodgers, he definitely, we said, he's one of the top quarterbacks ever. Talent-wise, maybe the best talent-wise, period. But if he gets that next ring, because he's 10-9 or something like that in the playoffs for his career. So he's like 500 or just right there. So for him now, and they've had the best record the last 2 seasons, 13-3 or 13-4 now. So it's now up to him to try to get over that hump and at least get to another Super Bowl to be known with the Bradys, the Peyton Mannings and others, the John Elways and Joe Montanas and others. But talent-wise, yes, Rodgers is definitely up there. But I think he has to win that. He's got to win another championship. And you get someone like Deebo Samuel that'll help his career out for the next couple of seasons at the very least and everything too. So another comment here saying Ben's a Cowboy if CeeDee Lamb definitely fell. He wouldn't be happy in the Eagles jersey. So yeah, I thought the Eagles were going to actually get CeeDee Lamb during that time, but Cowboys jumped ahead and got him. So that's a sore topic. So I'm gonna leave that one. So, but let's get into this draft and a little bit about the players and stuff like that. So we have a 49ers fan, a Saints fan, an Eagles fan. So three totally different fan base here and everything too. So Jason, we'll start with you as a 49ers fan. What do you think the 49ers need going into this draft? What are their biggest needs?
Well, like we said, hopefully we get in the first round and we'll be able to do something like that. But realistically speaking, we don't draft until the end of the second round, the 61st pick. So at that point, do you get the best player available? Probably. We'll see what their draft board is. But their biggest needs are, I would say in a row, secondary, offensive line, then defensive line. I know it's a defensive line. It's like that's one of their strengths, but you can never have enough defensive linemen, and guys get hurt. We see it every single year. Javon Kinlaw is coming back. We still got Eric Armstead. We got Nick Bosa, but Bosa's always getting hurt. So, we need guys. I would love – look, if we get in the first round and can get one of these pass rushers, I would be thrilled. I really would. But I'm more concentrated on the secondary for sure. But, again, if Debo leaves, it's just Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle who also gets hurt. So – we are going to need another weapon. So it's a loaded wide receiver draft. So, maybe we can get somebody really good late. And the 49ers have been drafting really well over the past few years. I mean, again, we got Debo in the second round, not going back, 4 years ago, but Elijah Mitchell in the sixth last year. So, but yeah, those would be their needs. Again, secondary is huge. And especially in that division, in a passing league, you can't get enough guys in the secondary. And Javarius Ward is really the only one that we picked up. And I'm happy about it, but we need more.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Debo does leave, that the receiver would definitely be prima. And this is a loaded wide receiver draft again. It's like last couple of seasons, and everything to it. And then the defensive line, of course, I think they'll have to address that as well. Damian, as a Saints fan, where do you see the Saints? What are some of their biggest needs coming into this draft?
Yeah, our two biggest ones that really stand out: offensive tackle, because we lost Teron Armstead to Miami, and also wide receiver. We definitely need that second weapon to go along with a finally healthy Michael Thomas there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we use those two picks to try to move up and get one of the upper echelon tackles. But if not, then we'll probably take in our mock draft had us taking the tackle from Central Michigan, Bernhard Raymond from Central Michigan. He looks like a good prospect there. And if he's at that spot, I wouldn't mind it. But if we trade up to get one of those guys, if we're able to trade up and get like an Evan Neal, that would be amazing. But if not, I wouldn't mind taking one of those guys. And then at wide receiver, I would love to get like a big body wide receiver. I had taken the guy from Arkansas in our mock draft. 6'2", 225, someone like similar to Michael Thomas in size and being a physical route runner, somebody who can separate and catch 50-50 balls. I think that's the perfect type of receiver you need for like a Jameis Winston at quarterback. So that'll be the first two positions. And then maybe later on in the draft, get a safety, because we did lose Malcolm Jenkins. You know about him as, him being a former Eagle as well.
Yes.
He retired, so good for him, but we do need to replace him now. So I could see us going safety there, because Daniel Sorensen, we picked him up, but that's just for depth. I don't want to see him starting. He's there for certain plays. He's there to, just to be there for depth and maybe in like nickel situations, dime situations, stuff like that. But he's definitely not going to be your starting guy when we're sitting in, our base formation at safety. Not at all. So we need to go ahead and get that addressed as well. But I like where we're at right now, and I'm very excited to see what we do with the options that we have in the draft.
Yeah, and I think, the Saints, they're kind of like similar with the Eagles. It's like you just need – I think we should keep our picks to personally now because as an Eagles fan, because I think they got so many needs. Secondary help, we need receiver. If we don't get Debo, I mean, we could get one of these receivers. And I know there was an argument, and Jason put the point up about receivers, picking back to back to back, but why not? It's like, sometimes it doesn't pan out. Jalen Reagor hasn't panned out. Devontae Smith has, so we just need more playmakers if Jalen Hurts is going to be our guy. We just need guys to help him out. You need players to help him out. So I can see the Eagles, going receiver again. We always are in line for a defensive lineman help. It's like we try to stay loaded with defensive lineman help. So I can see us getting a defensive line. We had 2 first-round picks. So I say we keep the picks. If not, we can try to move up. We need secondary help as well. So I agree. But go back to the Saints. Damian, you don't think they'll get a quarterback? Or do you? I know James Winston's coming. He's coming off. It was an ACL injury that he had. So he's coming back from the ACL tear. You don't think they would actually try to get a QB with one of those first-round picks?
No, I don't see that, because we do also have Ian Book on the roster, who we got last year from Notre Dame. I think they still believe in him. He only played once last year. It didn't look good when he played. But you can't just, X and out because of that. We had that game. We played against Miami. We were missing like 22 starters, basically, due to COVID in that game. It was ridiculous. Wow. So you can't really ask him, do much in that game. The whole offensive line was out that game. So you had all backup offensive linemen trying to protect him, and he was just running for his life.
Right.
Yeah, it was a horrible game. So I think they still believe in Ian Book as somebody who could be the future. If it's not Jameis, like if Jameis is still young, with 27, 28 years old. So if he comes through this year and plays well, he could be our guy for the next 7 to 10 years if he plays well. So if there's a QB they like in maybe the 3rd, 4th round, I can see that happening. But we already have 3 on the roster in Jameis, Dalton, and Ian Book. So I could see us waiting, and this QB draft isn't the strongest. I know we'll get into it. And also you just reminded me of something when you talked about the Eagles going after wide receiver again. You don't want to get into, we already drafted receivers, we can't do it again, because a few years back makes you feel old now. It's more than a few years back now. But remember when Detroit drafted Calvin Johnson? That was the whole conversation. Detroit's drafted all these receivers back to back to back. You can't draft another receiver, especially at 2nd overall. But they end up getting one of the greatest of all time, who's now in the Hall of Fame, in Calvin Johnson. So you can't have that mindset, because you might miss out on an all-time great because you're worried about the perception of you drafting the same position over and over again.
Yeah, you're right. And I think if you need that position and you have the draft capital to do it, the Eagles have 10 picks this season. So this year. So we just need to get the best player, because we have so many needs. I mean, even though we were a playoff team, kind of wasn't. Like, it's like we snuck in and got blown out. You got blown out by Tampa Bay. So it's one of those things like, okay. I mean, I was just glad that we actually improved more than I thought we were going into last season. But we still need a lot of help. Like there's positions we need help on. Like I said, defensive line, receiver, corner. We need another corner. We need a safety. Like that's what I said. There's been talks about Honey Badger coming to Philly. There's just all these things. So we need guys. So we just need to keep building and building, and hopefully they can get back into their winning ways. But this is the way to do it. Through the draft. For one, it's cheaper. For one thing, too, it's least expensive. It's less expensive. So you just load up, and then this is what we want to do. We want to load up on picks. We're loaded up for picks for the next 2 seasons, so we can maneuver, we can draft, we can trade, and all that. So I'm glad to see what the Eagles are up to. So, but there was a question here for the 49ers. What are the 49ers going to do with Jimmy G? I'll put that to you, Jason.
Well, I've said it before, so I'll just break it down really quickly. If they cannot trade him and get fair compensation, I have no problem at all with them keeping him on the roster as a backup, because nobody in their right mind who's a 49er fan is going to be clamoring for Jimmy Garoppolo if Trey Lance has a couple of bad games. Go into it. I know he's expensive. I totally understand. But the other thing is, if Trey Lance, guys, if he gets hurt for a couple of games, 3-4 games, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows the offense. And again, he's not the greatest guy, and I don't even want him on the roster. I would love to trade him. So let me make that perfectly clear. But again, having a solid backup really helps when you're a team who is expected to go in the playoffs and make some noise. And if he can keep you afloat for those few games, then that's something that's really important. So backup quarterbacks are really at a premium now, especially with how athletic the quarterbacks are, and they are getting hurt here and there. I think it's really important. So I'm okay with him being on the roster, but ideally, I would love to get fair compensation.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. I think the whole Jimmy G, if he hasn't been moved now, I don't think he's going to be moved. I just really don't. I mean, and it could be, and they could do it after June. They could do it during the preseason and everything too, but training camps. But I don't see him moving. I mean, I really don't, because I don't know what team now needs a quarterback. I mean, there's a few, but Pittsburgh maybe, but I don't know. I don't know what team.
There's a team in the Northwest. It's hard for me to picture you guys doing business with them, but Seattle.
Yeah, true.
they need a QB.
Yeah. I've heard Carolina, possible trading partner. I mean, I would suppose he's an upgrade over Sam Darnold. That's really not saying too much, but if we can get something back for it, then I'm all about it. But I'll tell you what, all three of our teams, guys, we're all expected to make the playoffs in a very weak NFC. As far as you, Courtney, I got you guys taking a defensive end and a wide receiver. I got you taking Olave and Jermaine Johnson. And D, I totally agree with you. I think you got to go offensive line and wide receiver. I think I ended up having Charles Cross and for your offensive lineman, and you guys getting Traylon Burks, which would be nice, or any of those wide receivers. So I agree, that's where you guys should go. We're expected to make the playoffs. The Saints were right there. They're going to get Winston back. You guys are, Damian, you guys are expected to make the playoffs and probably then some.
Yeah, no, that's the expectation to make the playoffs. You think about, because all Saints fans are saying, hey, we were 5-2 when Jameis was healthy.
Right.
And once we had to go to Trevor Siemian and Alvin Kamara missed 5 games, that's when it kind of, the bottom fell out for us. But we're healthy. We're expected to make the playoffs and make a deep little run. So it's an exciting year. A lot of people are going to be sleeping on that. A lot of fans outside of the NFC South are going to be sleeping on the Saints this year. Don't do that. The Saints are going to be a good team this year.
yeah, right. Don't
do that.
Don't do that. Yes. So another question here. The problem is if you draft a wide receiver back to back to back, that will cost you in 4 years when you have to pay them. Yes. But
that's only if they're all good.
Yeah, if they're all good. You want that problem. Yeah. You get 4 or 5 years of you don't have to pay premium price for that position. I say you do it, because then if they turn out really good 2 or 3 years, and then it's like, well, we have a premium receiver. So I love it. I love it. You on a rookie contract, you go ahead and get them. You get what you get it. You get the player that you want. I think that's
then if say you have 3 that are really good, if you only could afford to pay 2 of them, you'll get compensation on the 3rd guy.
Yeah, right.
Then you could put them on a franchise tag, and the next team has to give up, I guess, it's like a 1st-round pick or 2 first-round picks, whatever it is, to get them, because you already have them on the contract. So it works out if they all play well. And the thing is, half the time, all 3 or all 4 aren't going to work out that well.
Right.
So you're going to have 2 or 3 out of that 4 that turn out well. So I don't see a problem with it if that's your position of need. Now, you can't just ignore other positions.
Yeah, right.
If you got a gaping hole in your offensive line, you can't just go draft.
You got to address that too. You got to address all the needs that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if you have the draft picks, you just got to draft smart and get guys that will fit your system. And we'll see if these teams can do it. But let's go back to the quarterbacks. Usually the quarterbacks in every draft, there's usually 1 or 2, but like I said, this season the quarterbacks, it's not the strongest position heading into this draft. Do you guys feel like there will be a quarterback drafted in the top 5? I mean, it's a possibility. I got to shout out Paige DeMarcos. She's on the Draft Network. She brought this point up. She said she really feels like that there might be a quarterback that might go top 5, maybe to Detroit. I mean, we haven't heard. She's the only one that's actually I've heard say that from the Draft Network. So she was talking about that on Joy Taylor's show, and she was saying that she said she's getting into that they might draft. Do they believe Jared Goff, or maybe Goff for next season, but beyond, and they might go up high. I don't know if they're gonna go up that high and get them, but what do you guys think? Do you guys think a quarterback might just come up and somebody will get a quarterback in the first 5 picks? What do you think? I'll start with you, Jason.
I actually do. In my mock draft, I have Seattle panicking a little bit and trading with the Giants, who have 2 first-round picks. So the Giants wouldn't even have to move back that much, only 4 picks in the first round. Plus, they would get, obviously, other compensation. So I think Seattle goes and takes Malik Willis with the 5th pick in the trade. And I think Kenny Pickett goes right after to Carolina. Of course, I could be wrong, and I probably am, but I think that's the way that it goes down. You know how it is, guys. Every year it's like quarterback, and this year, while there's not so many, teams will panic, and teams who need one, they'll go after it, and they'll make sure that they get high enough and give up, what it takes in order to get it. And I think Seattle, Malik Willis, I think that would be a great fit, and for them just to move up a few picks and give up just a little bit extra to the Giants, I think they could pull it off and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I have a feeling there's going to be one quarterback, a team, like you said, Carolina or, Detroit, somebody will probably reach and then they try to get their quarterback and get a quarterback. So I can see Detroit actually maybe doing that, getting, like you said, a Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, and draft them second, third overall. So what do you think, Damian? Do you think there will be a quarterback that will actually getting into the top 5?
I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. Like, I could definitely see Jay's scenario coming to fruition for sure. Right now, I have Seattle waiting until their 9th spot to take Malik Willis. This draft kind of reminds me of 2013, and I think teams might think about that. They might think about the ghost of 2013. If you remember that year, that was the year where the jewel of the draft, as far as quarterbacks, was Geno Smith. He was the best quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the EJ Manuel year. He was the only one drafted in the first round.
Yeah,
you had Mike Glennon, who's still around somehow. Matt Barkley, and the rest of the names aren't even really worth mentioning. Landry Jones had a cup of coffee playing a little bit. But that year, like, the EJ Manuel pick was a reach at the time. Like, people were like, really? You're going to reach to pick EJ Manuel? But every year, somebody's going to reach for that quarterback. So I can see it happening. But this could be the year where people are like, okay, let's think about that year. Let's not reach on the EJ Manuel, who never looked like he was an NFL quarterback. Like, it just never worked out at all in Buffalo for him. So let's not reach on that guy, and let's wait and see. But even on my first round thing, I think I have 3 or 4 going in the first round, just because I think quarterbacks are so valued that people will reach over. Like, my last pick, I have Atlanta trading back into the first round to get the quarterback out of North Carolina from Detroit. So because Atlanta, I don't think they can go into the season with Marcus Mariota as the future, quote unquote. So I feel like they're gonna make a move to try to get a quarterback as well. So it could happen either way. But if I was a GM, I would think about 2013. Like, do we want to really reach if there's no QB that really just sparks that fire for us?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, there are teams at the top. Carolina, they pick 6. At Detroit, as we said, but I think Detroit goes. I think they'll pick. They'll probably go defensive lineman or something like that as well. So we just don't know. But let's talk about the top.
They do have the 32nd pick. They have a 32nd.
They could.
They
can one then. 32nd. Yep. Yeah. I think quarterbacks will drop, and they can pick a quarterback in the second round. So I mean, I think this is not a quarterback rich heavy draft this season, but someone's going to end up reaching and getting a quarterback in the top 5. We're gonna be like, yep, there it is. Somebody with stuff. Either somebody moved up, and if they want to get their guy, they'll get him. So let's talk about the number 1 pick, Jacksonville, another team spent a lot of money in free agency. But Aiden Hutchinson, is he the clear-cut number 1? I mean, there's been questions. Will he be the number 1 pick? There's just been really. I mean, it's been very quiet with the number 1 pick, and I read a story that they said that Jacksonville said that no one has called him for the number 1 pick, so they're gonna probably just pick Aiden Hutchinson. But you guys think that Aiden Hutchinson is the clear-cut number 1? Damian, start with you.
Yeah, I do think he's the clear-cut number 1 because he was just so productive and consistent in college. Right. He's one of those guys who looks like he's gonna come in the league right away, 10 sacks. Be one of those guys that's gonna be consistent. I don't know if he's gonna be an all-time great, but he's going to be a consistent pro, make a few Pro Bowls, probably one of those type of guys. I don't know if he has the upside of other people who, like a Kayvon Thibodeau. Seems like he's going to mature in the league and may turn into this absolute just monster. So that's the only thing that I could think of where teams might see the potential of Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, oh, okay, maybe we'll take that chance. But Hutchinson seems like the more sure thing because there's no like real boom or bust factor with him. Like other players, there's a boom or bust factor. With Hutchinson, it seems like he's going to be the guy that's just consistent right there, already ready to go as soon as he comes into training camp.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's the more ready. He brings a lot of energy and pass rushing moves, and he's a beast. I think Aiden
Yeah,
Hudson is a beast, and that will help Jacksonville because they can only go up. They can't.
yeah,
I don't think they can just continue to plateau at the bottom. But like I said, they spent a lot of money in free agency, so they're trying to load up, and they picked Trevor Lawrence last season, so why not try to get another?
I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville. I think we've talked about it on our show, Jay. If Jacksonville kind of made a move this year, like we haven't picked our quantum league team yet, but they could be one of those teams because they made a lot of moves and they have like a real coaching staff now. I think that's the thing that people are forgetting.
Yeah.
Like they had a joke of a coaching staff last year.
Yeah.
Having a real coaching staff is going to make a huge difference in Jacksonville.
Huge difference, and then you could get a guy like Aiden Hutchinson or even Kayvon Thibodeau, as you said. They have a lot of needs too. So I can see them just going after Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, you like I said, you can't be this bad for so long. It's just hard. They're a horrible franchise. It's just like such a garbage franchise. Sorry, Jacksonville fans. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching. But Jason, what do you think? Aiden Hutchinson, clear cut number one, or Jacksonville surprises? Maybe go with Thibodeau or somebody like that.
Yeah, I pretty much echo what you guys said. I wouldn't say it's so clear cut. I do have Aiden Hutchinson going number one, but like Dee said, I wouldn't be surprised if they went Kayvon Thibodeau with all that potential out there. Excuse me. So it does seem like Hutchinson is the most consistent. He's got a motor that never quits, and who doesn't love that, obviously. So, given the fact that he played at a big school, Michigan, right? So I think that he will probably go number one, but no, it wouldn't shock me if Thibodeau went number one, and even Nicky picked Trayvon Walker to go number one, who can play all around the defensive line, which is interesting. So clear cut, no, but I do agree that Aiden Hutchinson will go number one. He's going one of my mock.
Yeah, and this is a defensive draft just in general. Just the top, the first round in itself. There's a lot of defensive. I mean, so many good defensive players. You got Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame. He's going to probably be in the top 5, somewhere around there. Ahmad Gardner, cornerback from Cincinnati. I mean, there's so many. Derek Stingley, he's been getting a lot of buzz lately too. Cornerback from LSU. So I'm thinking he's going to move up. I know teams that they're talking about him moving up in the draft as well. Jordan Davis. I know the Eagles have been linked to him, defensive tackle from Georgia. I mean, this is a defensive-rich draft and everything, too. What do you guys think? You guys think, since this is such a defensive-rich draft, how many, if you can guess, I know you guys did your mock draft, how many defensive players will be drafted in the first round? Damian, what do you think? Put you on the spot.
Yeah. Think about my mock draft. Now, it was very defensive-heavy. Now I'm thinking about it, but I had a lot of tackles going, too. So I'm thinking first round, probably more than offensive players. So I'm gonna go 32 picks. I'm gonna go with 17 to 18 defensive players in the first round.
Yeah, I think that's a good number. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I'm right around the same area. I was thinking like 18, 19. I'm not, I don't have it in front of me. I'm not counting exactly how many I do it, but I do know that I picked more defensive players. And the one thing that sticks out to me, guys, if you guys remember, it wasn't too long ago that nobody would draft a cornerback until very late in the first round. Now cornerbacks are at a total premium, man, because, again, the league has changed. So Trent McDuffie, even maybe Roger McCreary, who can sneak in late. There's a lot of cornerbacks like, Sauce Gardner, and Kyle Hamilton, I think, is going to be a fantastic safety in this league. So, those positions are way more at a premium. I think that's why you see so many defensive, linemen, cornerbacks, and offensive linemen will always be at a premium. But it's funny how they seem to be dropping in this draft. It's interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. It is interesting how drafts always change each and every year. Sometimes it is wide receiver heavy or quarterback heavy. Now this year is all defensive heavy. So which is excellent. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what are one or two players you guys are willing to see where they go. Like some of the players that you're like, man, I will hope my team gets this player, or where does this player hopefully he falls to us. Jason, I'll start with you. What are one or two players that you are got your eyes on, not necessarily for your team, but just that you think will be a really, really good prospect?
Well, I'll give you a couple because I was doing a little bit of homework on this over the past week, like who the 49ers is going to get so late. And we love our running backs like late. but maybe even in the second round. This kid, Kenneth Walker from Michigan State, Kenneth Walker III, dude is a beast. He's 5'10". He's like 210. He'll probably have to gain like another 10 pounds to be in the league, but he averaged 5.8 yards a carry, 4.3 after contact. So he's a guy that you may be able to get late. But Breece Hall is like the talk of the running backs. He may go in the first round. We rarely see, Najee Harris went in the first round to Pittsburgh last year. So I don't know if Breece Hall from Iowa State goes, but that dude broke 194 tackles last year. Like that's, I can't even wrap my mind around something like that. That's insane. So I got to think he's going to do well. But one other name that I'll give you out there, and we talked about a wide receiver heavy draft. Nobody is talking about this kid out of Western Michigan, Sky Moore, who is he's not big. He's 5'10", but he's fast as hell. He ran 4.4, 1,300 yards he had last year. I think that somebody who could draft him like, third round or something like that and get, like maybe a really solid number 2 or something like that. So those are the couple of names I have out there. But yeah, selfishly for the Niners, I would love to draft that Kenneth Walker kid.
That would be, yes, there's a lot of good players, man. What do you think, Damian? A couple of players that either you got your eyes on or just not specifically for your team, but just in general, who you think is gonna really pop when they get drafted?
Yeah, you guys mentioned Kyle Hamilton, absolute beast. From what I've seen, I can't wait to see him play in the league. Especially for the Saints, I was looking at safeties. Like I mentioned earlier, we can use a safety a little later on in the draft. And hopefully someone like a Lewis Sign from Georgia, hopefully he falls to us in the second round. That's someone I've been looking at. I'm like, okay, big safety, 6'2", 200 pounds. I think he could be somebody who can be on that back end and really patrol back there while also being able to play the run. I like versatile safeties like that. So that's somebody who I'm looking forward to. And as far as us, man, just getting that offensive tackle, man, that offensive tackle who can come in right away. And even if he has to play right tackle, because we do have Ryan Ramczyk, who's one of the best right tackles in the league. I don't know if he can transfer to left tackle. I don't know if he has to left tackle. Usually you want your guy who has like the best footwork and who's the most athletic offensive lineman to be there. Ryan Ramczyk can do that, and then you have somebody come in right away and play right tackle. Either way, for me, I'm looking for that tackle who come in, and of course, Treylon Burks, me and Jay agreed on that for the wide receiver to be drafted by us. I like that big body receiver for James to throw to.
I love that. I love Treylon Burks and Drake London too from USC. He's 6'4", 210. He's being talked about, but not as much as some of the other ones like Olave, Jameson Williams. He's another one, guy with speed, but he's coming off a torn ACL. He suffered that in the title game. So teams that pick him up, we'll see what, if he recovers. He won't probably be in for the beginning of the year, but super talented. But I like a couple of those guys on the receiver. Like I said, it's receiver heavy. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. He's another top receiver that's being talked about. There's so many receivers on that end. Just so I want to see where all these receivers fall, kind of like last season as well. Any players you guys think that should be avoided, or maybe that's being talked about too much that might be up to, they're saying, oh, he's going to be drafted too high or anything like that? Damien, any couple players on that end?
Ooh, I hate to say it, man, but Malik Willis, I'm starting to see red flags on Malik Willis. Because first of all, he's not as big as I thought he was. Like he's 6 foot. And for his skill set, he has the big arm. He's known for the explosive plays, and he's like the same size like a Russell Wilson, pretty much. And that for you to be special at that size, you have to be a special talent, right? So like the Kyler Murrays, Russell Wilsons, the Drew Breeses, the guys who can be special at that size are all-time greats usually. And Kyler Murray has potential to be that if he works everything out in Arizona. But with Willis, he didn't play against the best competition. And when he did play against D1 competition, didn't play well. So it's like, he's probably the biggest boom or bust guy in the draft. He could come in, and hopefully I'm wrong, he comes in and just is amazing because of that talent that he has, getting NFL coaching, NFL training. He's amazing. But he'll be the one that I would stay away from if I was early in the draft. Like Detroit, number 2 overall, that could be a major mistake if they pull that trigger.
Yeah, there's always going to be some boom or bust type of players every draft. It just always happens. Jason, what do you think? Any player that you think could be a potential bust? Or I don't like to say that, but there's just players that just are. But what do you think?
It's going to happen. Like it's going to be probably 10 or 12 players who are just not going to work out. Yeah.
Right, and even in the first round, it's just the way it is.
No doubt about it. Yeah, that's just that is how it is. Honestly, you mentioned Drake London. I do worry about him in a certain way. He's great at 50-50 balls, but he's more of a possession type receiver. Like, I don't know if he's worth a top 10, 15 pick, even though I think the Jets are going to draft him because they need a receiver taller than 5'10". He doesn't seem to have all of it. I think that and I think that's why he's not being spoke about like you were talking about, because he's really not as good as he was portrayed to be to begin with. So I think that he's someone you watch out for. Dee mentioned the quarterbacks. They're always a question mark, anyone from Ritter to Howell to Corral to, any of the guys that we had mentioned before, from Pick to Willis. But I really don't know this, so don't quote me on anything, but I've heard something negative regarding Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, that he's not as much of a team guy. Again, please don't quote me on this, but I was hearing some negative things, and he should be a first-round draft pick as far as his skill is concerned, but there were question marks about him kind of outside the football a little bit. So I don't know what it is. All I can tell you is that I've heard certain things, so I don't know. He may be somebody to watch out for in a different aspect off the field from what I understand, and truthfully, I don't know what it is. I'm just kind of giving you a little hearsay of what I've heard. That's all.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's another thing we talk about with that whole thing, off the field issues. And there's always there's players heading into this draft that does have those off the field issues, and do teams take a risk, or anything like that. And depending on what the off the field issue is, maybe some teams do take that risk, or do they have a drug problem? Do they have this or that? I mean, it's character issues,
It could go either way. It could be Justin Blackman, or it could be Randy Moss.
All right,
You never know when it comes to the off the field issues. Like, you just have to do your research on that for sure.
Yeah, you got to do your research, and there was another player that I think could be a potential bust. Bailey Zapp from Western Kentucky. There's been things that he has just enough arm strength. When you hear something like that, just enough arm strength, you got to be questioning, like, okay, is he? All right, can he throw it further than 40 yards down the field? Like, that's that's
Chad Pennington.
Chad Pennington, right? Right, somebody like that, right? It's like
wind up.
Yeah, does it take long to like wind it up and then throw it? But he can only get it 30 yards down the field. So that's just, like I said, I know scouts, they do this all year. So a lot of props to the scouts that go through this and go, so many players, 7 rounds of players and all that. So any final?
I would give you one more name real quick, Courtney, if you don't mind. Roger McCreary from Auburn. We talked about a cornerback who, playing obviously in the SEC is a huge thing, and he did really well, even against guys like Jamar Chase. But I hear that he's got a very short wingspan, which does count in the NFL when you're jumping for like 50-50 balls, and he's 5'11", 190 pounds, and he's talked about as maybe a late first rounder, but from what I hear, his measurables aren't really NFL worthy, if you want to say that. So that would be maybe one other guy I'd watch out for, just from what I've read.
Okay, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, like I said, there's so many players, so much. I mean, like I said, we've been cramming, doing our homework, and I got websites up. I got newspapers. I was just trying to cram like a bunch of, just to see what our teams are going to select. So it's going to be an exciting time. But any final thoughts on this draft before I let you guys go? Jason, I'll start with you. What do you, any final thoughts, expectations, and all that?
Final thoughts. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I see the teams panicking on quarterback. We'll see which ones. I can't wait to see which trades go down and who's going to come back in the first round and who's going to mortgage their future for this guy or that guy. But again, there's really no player that totally stands out. So the biggest thing for me right now, personally, is what's going to happen with Debo, and are we going to get back in the first round, and is it worth it for us? So that's my main thing right now. And then I think about other guys like, AJ Brown, who's in that situation, or Terry McLaurin, or even DK Metcalf, who's been talked about. So they could even change the dynamic of what happens on the first day of the draft. You never know.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree with all that. Damian, your final thoughts on heading into this draft? Anything, expectations, all that?
I think it's going to be an exciting draft because of the amount of movement we're going to see in the first round. I think that first night's going to be really exciting. I think some people are sleeping on it because we don't have those quarterbacks like we had last year with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and all these guys that we all knew. Even if you weren't big college fans, we all knew these guys because they became national stories in their college career. We don't have those guys this year. But I think with all the talent we have at wide receiver, defensive line, how deep it is, offensive line, you're going to have a lot of movement, and you're going to see the storylines of does Debo move, or does Jimmy G get moved, or does Baker Mayfield finally get moved? You're going to have those storylines going on throughout that first round. So I think it's going to be very exciting first round for sure, and the second and third round will be exciting for sure as well.
Yes, I agree with that as well. Like you said, the movements, and there's big names still available to be had. Like I said, to name all those receivers, Terry McLaurin and all that, and Debo Samuel. I'm looking forward to that. Do those guys move? DK Metcalf, Baker Mayfield, and there's been does he go to Seattle? Seattle doesn't. Some of the players they don't want him, or even Carolina, I should say. They don't. They're like, nah.
Baker has to get moved. Like with Jimmy G, like with Jason was saying, Jimmy G could be there, and it's not toxic. It's okay. He might not be in the best situation, might not be the happiest, but you can live with that situation. Right. Baker can't be in Cleveland.
No,
that can't happen.
No. He has to go.
Totally
he has to go because and the funny thing is with Baker Mayfield, he doesn't want to take responsibility. It's not me. it's not me. It's everybody else. But it's you. it's totally you because you're not. You're the one. You're the problem. And you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and think like, oh, even guys don't want me on their squad. They don't even want me on Carolina. It's like. No. Right, like players are like, nah, we don't want Baker Mayfield. So he's got to think like, okay, maybe I need to reevaluate some things, and so I can actually keep a job as a starter and do that because Carson Wentz was going through the same thing, maybe not as toxic as Baker Mayfield, but Carson Wentz like his last shot, I think, with the Washington. Was it the Washington football team or
Commanders,
Commander Carson now. But this is his last shot because there was issues, like I said, all in the locker room issues, and I could address that with being an Eagles fan. So last chance, but like Baker Mayfield's got to look at the same thing. Like maybe it is me and top draft pick. But I look forward to seeing all that, those big storylines, as you said. So I know we're going to be locked in with.
It's just a lot about Baker Mayfield, Courtney. I mean, because it's a quarterback to only pay him $18-19 million a year is pretty freaking cheap nowadays. And the fact that Seattle, Carolina don't even want to give it a shot, that, like you say, that's just a lot, man.
It's a lot, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Looking forward, like I said, to seeing what defensive linemen, wide receivers, offensive linemen, safeties. I mean, it's a loaded draft. So so draft is here Thursday. Can't wait. I can't thank you guys enough for jumping on here. Really appreciate it. Let everyone know where they can follow the 33 podcast, the Real Deal podcast, and where they can follow you guys. Damian, start with you.
Yes, so you can go ahead and check us out at 33 Podcast on all podcast platforms if you miss us live. So you have a chance to check us out live on Facebook every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Football is the base of our podcast, right? That's where the foundation is, but it's going to go everywhere. Like he mentioned earlier, Nicky's going to have trivia, no matter, like some holidays I don't even know about. We'll come in and be like, oh, today is Blue Day. We're going to learn about all things.
National this day, right.
So you're definitely going to learn something every time. If it's not football, you're going to learn something every time you listen to the 33 Podcast for sure. So again, that's live on Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the 33 Podcast page. You can go ahead and follow that now. You'll see our articles on 33podcast.com. So you can get Jason always does great football articles, and he has, baseball knowledge, basketball knowledge. He can do everything. I'm going to give you football, basketball, and boxing articles as well. Nikki's articles can range in anything. She's the wild card. Like literally
reality TV to football.
Exactly. And if you go directly to 3and3podcast.com, we have some special treats for you there as far as some products that you can get at a cheap price as well. So check us out there. My podcast is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams. When you put it into your favorite podcast platform, put the full thing, The Real Deal with Damian Adams, like a pimp named Slickback. It'll pull up for you. Yep. And my podcast is football, basketball, and boxing. Even now I'm expanding, doing like shows. Like I've been recapping Winning Time, the Lakers Dynasty show on HBO. Been doing recaps on that. And when Nikki comes on, we'll talk about reality TV. Even we got Jay pulled into it now. We're going to have him talk about
man. I don't know how this happened, but all right.
So we're going to have that show. Once he gets caught up, we're going to have that show. I have them both on, and we'll talk about the ultimatum. And of course, we'll get back to sports as well and talk some football on the episode. But so yeah, that's all. I know it's a lot of stuff. So just follow me at the Real Deal WDA on all social media platforms, and that's where you'll have access to everything that me and Jay do, and I do on my own as well.
Definitely follow, and you can't follow enough. Just follow Damian, follow Jason as well. Jason, shout out your social media and all that too as well.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Yeah, I obviously echo everything Damian said. I don't need to say it twice because It was nice, baby. You did it well. So yeah, follow me at Sports Prophet 1. That's the number one. I'm glad to converse about anything sports, reality TV. Yeah, again, you may have to go to Damian and Nikki on that one. I'm going to catch up a little bit, immerse myself in that world. I'm going to try. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's basically where the action is at. And yeah, 3rd and 3 podcast live every Wednesday night, 7:00 Eastern time. Join us, be part of the show, come in and comment. We love it. We love the interaction. And, we'll be sure to give you guys the best that we got for the hour and a half, 2 hours that we got every Wednesday. So appreciate it. And Courtney, it's always a pleasure and an honor being on your show, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate both of you guys. And again, follow 3rd and 3 podcast, like it, share it, all those good things. And you said you can talk about from range of reality TV to football to, because like I said, Nikki was in the comments when me and Damian had our show a couple weeks ago talking NBA, and she had us talking about reality TV. We're talking about housewives or whatever. It was like, okay, because I used to be a big reality TV, but I just stopped watching all those shows. But
good for you. Good.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll sneak in, but Nikki's like, "Yep, I got him." So she's like I said, tricky Nikki. She's the sneaky one. But shout out to the 3rd and 3 podcast, the network, the website, everything, man. I can't thank you guys enough for doing this. I'm glad you guys jumped on. Really appreciate it. So, like I said, this will be out. You guys watch it, follow. You can follow me on all social media platforms. The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. I'll just keep it short. Just type it in and you say Google us. We're on Google. So yes, Google us all. And last shout out to Walter Strong, who has a dope podcast as well. So he said good afternoon. So shout out to him as well. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And we'll be talking. I'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks a lot.
Our pleasure, man. Thank you.
Right.
Much appreciated. All right.
All right, that is a wrap for the show. Can't thank Damian and Jason for jumping on here. NFL draft days away, preview show down. Again, thank you guys for everyone that tunes in, who's tuning in on Roku, who's tuning in on Spreaker, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the interaction. Download the app. We're on Apple Podcasts. Like I said, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, BS3network.com, BS3 TV on Roku as well. Download the app. Follow the BS3 network. We got shows for everybody and everything. We got sports. We got TV and movie reviews. We got politics, comedy. We have it all. Spirituality. So if you have a show, an idea, hit us up on social media at Get the Real Deal, at Courtney 110979, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, CJ Harden 79 on Instagram. Like I said, we got it all. The network, We got about 30 shows on the network, so we'll just keep building, keep getting strong. So that's it. That's a wrap for the show. Thank you. Peace. See you next week. God bless.